frozen, watching as Olivia loosened Victoria's corset and elevated her feet. The guests murmured in shock while camera phones captured the scene. "She's coming around," Olivia announced as Victoria's eyes fluttered open. "Victoria, you fainted." "Just lie still for a minute." Victoria's gaze darted frantically around the crowded altar, mortification washing over her as she realized what had happened. "Oh God," she whispered. "The wedding." "Don't worry about that now," Olivia soothed, helping her to sit up slowly. Victoria's parents pushed forward, her mother already in tears. "This is a disaster," Mrs. Sinclair hissed, somehow more concerned with appearances than her daughter's health. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Alexander finally stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "Perhaps we should postpone," he suggested, his tone businesslike. "No!" Victoria tried to stand but swayed dangerously. "I can continue. I just need a minute." Olivia shook her head. "You need to rest. Your blood pressure is too low." "We've got 400 guests and a 5-course dinner waiting," Mrs. Sinclair argued. Alexander cleared his throat. "If I may suggest, the reception could continue as planned. A celebration rather than a wedding. No need to waste the arrangements." His practical solution was so typical of him. Efficient, logical, and utterly devoid of emotion. Victoria stared at her almost husband, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity what she'd been denying for months. "Could everyone please give us a moment?" she asked quietly. The minister nodded, ushering the wedding party back. Only Olivia remained, supporting Victoria. "You too, Liv," Victoria whispered. "I need to speak with Alexander alone." Reluctantly, Olivia stepped away, though she didn't go far. When they were relatively private, Victoria took Alexander's hands in hers. "I can't do this," she said simply. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. "You mean today? We can reschedule." "No," Victoria interrupted. "I mean at all. I can't marry you, Alexander." For the first time in their relationship, Alexander looked genuinely shocked. "Because you fainted? That's hardly—" "It's not about fainting," Victoria said, her voice growing stronger as the truth poured out. "It's about us. This isn't right, and I think you know it too. We look perfect together, but there's nothing real between us. No passion. No true connection. We're marrying because it makes sense on paper, not because we're in love." Alexander's expression hardened. "This is hardly the time or place for this discussion. If not now, when?" Victoria asked. "After we've made vows we don't truly feel? After we've spent years in a marriage that's more business arrangement than love story? I can't do that to you or to myself." Silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of truth finally spoken. Then, surprisingly, Alexander's shoulders relaxed slightly. "Perhaps you're right," he admitted quietly. "I respect you, Victoria. I admire you. But love?" He shook his head slowly. "I'm not sure I know what that would even feel like." Victoria felt tears springing to her eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. "You deserve to find out. We both do. So this is it? After 2 years, it ends at the altar?" Victoria nodded. "Better now than after we've made promises we can't keep." Alexander straightened his tie, his composure returning. "I'll address the guests. You should rest." "Thank you," Victoria whispered. As he turned to leave, she added, "I'm sorry, Alexander." He paused, then looked back with an expression that might almost have been tenderness. "Don't be. Perhaps this is the most honest we've ever been with each other." As Alexander walked away to break the news to their guests, Olivia rushed back to Victoria's side. "What happened? Are you okay?" Victoria took a shaky breath. "I called off the wedding." "You what?" Olivia gasped. "Because you fainted?" "Because I finally faced the truth," Victoria explained, allowing Olivia to help her to a nearby chair. "I don't love him, Liv. I never did, not really. And he doesn't love me either." Olivia sat beside her, stunned. "But everything was perfect. The planning, the venue, your families, everything except the actual marriage," Victoria said with a sad smile. "Can you imagine spending your life with someone who looks at you the same way they look at a successful business deal?" Before Olivia could respond, Victoria's mother descended upon them, her face contorted with fury. "What have you done?" she hissed. "Alexander is telling everyone the wedding is canceled. Do you have any idea of the embarrassment you've caused?" "Mother, please," Victoria said wearily. "I'm not feeling well." "Not feeling well? You've just thrown away the most advantageous match this family has made in generations. The Rhodes connection would have secured our position in Boston society for decades." Victoria closed her eyes, the weight of her mother's disappointment, nothing new. "I couldn't marry someone I don't love." "Love?" Mrs. Sinclair scoffed. "Marriage at our level isn't about love. It's about alliances, about suitable matches. Your grandmother barely knew your grandfather before their wedding, and they had a perfectly successful marriage." "I want more than perfectly successful," Victoria said firmly. Mrs. Sinclair turned to Olivia. "This is your influence, isn't it? All those ridiculous ideas about marrying for love." "Don't blame Olivia," Victoria defended. "This was my decision." "Get her out of here," Mrs. Sinclair snapped at Olivia. "Through the side door. I'll handle damage control." As Olivia helped Victoria through the church corridors, they could hear Alexander's measured voice addressing the guests, explaining that unforeseen circumstances had led to a mutual decision to cancel the ceremony. "I need air," Victoria murmured as they reached the small garden behind the church. Olivia guided her to a stone bench beneath a flowering magnolia tree. The late May air was sweet with blossoms, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside. "What will you do now?" Olivia asked gently. Victoria laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to the sound. "I have no idea. Move out of my parents' house, finally. Maybe travel. Figure out who I am when I'm not being Victoria Sinclair, society daughter and almost wife of Alexander Rhodes." "You can stay with me until you figure things out," Olivia offered. "Thank you." Victoria squeezed her friend's hand. "You've always been there for me, even when I was making the biggest mistake of my life." "That's what best friends are for," Olivia said simply. They sat in companionable silence until the sound of approaching footsteps made them look up. Alexander Rhodes stood in the garden pathway, still impeccable in his wedding tuxedo despite the circumstances. "Victoria," he acknowledged with a nod. "Your mother is asking for you. Something about addressing the close family members who remain." Victoria sighed. "Of course she is. Appearances above all." "I can tell her you're not up to it," Olivia suggested protectively. Alexander's gaze shifted to Olivia, really seeing her for perhaps the first time. "Dr. Martinez, isn't it? Victoria mentioned you work in emergency medicine." "That's right," Olivia replied, surprised he remembered. "Your quick response was impressive," he said. "Thank you for taking care of her." There was something in his tone, genuine gratitude perhaps, that seemed uncharacteristic of the aloof businessman Victoria had described. "Just doing my job," Olivia said with a slight shrug. Alexander turned back to Victoria. "I've arranged for my car to take you wherever you'd like to go. I assume you'd prefer not to face the reception crowd." "That's thoughtful," Victoria said, clearly surprised by the gesture. "Thank you." "The arrangements are already paid for," Alexander continued pragmatically. "It seems a shame to waste them. I've told the guests they're welcome to stay and enjoy the celebration, even without the ceremony." Victoria nodded, too exhausted to argue. A very practical solution. "My specialty," Alexander said with the ghost of a self-deprecating smile. "I should go. There are business associates I should speak with before they leave." Even now, Victoria thought, business came first. She'd made the right decision. "Alexander," she called as he turned to leave. "I am sorry about how this happened. The timing, the public nature of it all. You didn't deserve that." He paused, considering her words. "Perhaps it's better this way. Clean. Definitive. No ambiguity." He hesitated, then added, "I hope you find what you're looking for, Victoria." As he walked away, Olivia helped Victoria to her feet. "His car is waiting?" That was unexpected. Alexander is nothing if not efficient. Even in a crisis, Victoria said. Would you come with me? I don't think I can face being alone right now. Of course, Olivia agreed. Let me just tell the other bridesmaids where we're going. While Olivia went to inform the wedding party, Victoria waited by the garden gate, still in her wedding dress, feeling oddly lightweight despite the heavy beating. The sound of voices drew her attention to a partially open window of the church office. Complete disaster, came her mother's strident tones. How will we ever show our faces in society again? Eleanor, please, her father responded. Our daughter's health and happiness are more important than social standing. Are they? She had everything, everything, and she threw it away on some childish notion of romance. Alexander Rhodes is the best match she could have hoped for. Do you know what his company is worth? What connections he has? The man barely looked at her during the ceremony, her father argued. Did you see any affection there? Any tenderness? Tenderness doesn't pay for summer homes and secure futures, her mother snapped. Victoria stepped back from the window, her heart heavy. She'd always known her mother valued status above all else, but hearing it stated so baldly still hurt. Olivia returned, now carrying a small overnight bag. I grabbed your emergency kit from the bridal suite, change of clothes, makeup, your medication. Always prepared, Victoria said gratefully. What would I do without you? Probably marry billionaires you don't love, Olivia teased gently, linking her arm through Victoria's as they walked toward the waiting car. The sleek, black Bentley stood at the curb, driver holding the door open. Victoria hesitated, suddenly struck by the symbolism of leaving her almost wedding in her almost husband's car. Second thoughts? Olivia asked. Victoria shook her head. No, just processing how much has changed in an hour. They slid into the luxurious back seat, Victoria careful with her expansive gown. Where to, Miss Sinclair? The driver asked. Victoria looked at Olivia. Your place? Just for tonight until I figure things out? Of course. Olivia provided her address in Cambridge, then turned to Victoria as the car pulled away from the curb. You should eat something. Your blood sugar is probably dangerously low. As if on cue, Victoria noticed a small refrigerator built into the car's console. Inside was a selection of drinks and snacks, including chocolate-covered strawberries clearly meant for the newlyweds. Ride to the reception. Wedding night treats, Victoria said with a hollow laugh, offering one to Olivia. As they ate strawberries meant for a celebration that would never happen, Victoria gazed out the window at Boston passing by. Do you think I made a mistake? Calling off the wedding? No, Olivia said firmly. Agreeing to marry him in the first place? Maybe. But we all make decisions that seem right at the time. He's not a bad person, Victoria reflected. Just emotionally unavailable. I convinced myself that would change after we were married. It rarely does, Olivia said quietly. Victoria studied her friend. You never liked him, did you? You never said anything, but I could tell. Olivia hesitated. It wasn't about liking or disliking. I just never saw you light up around him. When you talked about him, it was always about his accomplishments, his status, how your parents approved, never about how he made you feel. The truth of those words settled heavily between them. The car turned onto Olivia's tree-lined street in Cambridge, far from the wealthy Beacon Hill neighborhood where Victoria had grown up. We'll need to get you out of that dress, Olivia said practically as they arrived. I'm not sure it will fit through my apartment door. Victoria laughed, the first genuine laugh of the day. This dress has its own zip code. The driver helped them with Victoria's bags, his professional demeanor never slipping, despite the unusual circumstance of delivering a bride in full wedding attire to a location that was clearly not her honeymoon destination. Olivia's apartment was on the third floor of a converted Victorian house, small but charming, filled with books and warm colors that reflected her personality. It couldn't have been more different from the minimalist luxury of Alexander's penthouse or the formal elegance of Victoria's family home. Sorry for the mess, Olivia apologized, quickly gathering medical journals from the couch. I wasn't expecting company. It's perfect, Victoria said, meaning it. It feels like a home, not a showpiece. It took both of them to navigate the wedding dress through the narrow hallway to Olivia's bedroom, where they collapsed in laughter after finally freeing Victoria from the layers of tulle and satin. I never should have let my mother talk me into this monstrosity, Victoria said, now wearing Olivia's oversized Harvard Medical School sweatshirt and yoga pants. "I wanted something simple." "You looked beautiful," Olivia assured her. "Like a princess." "A princess who face-planted at the altar." Victoria groaned, the humiliation of the moment returning. Everyone was filming. "I'm probably all over social media by now." Olivia checked her phone and winced. "It's trending locally. Hashtag Sinclair Ode's wedding." "Let me see," Victoria demanded, then immediately regretted it as she scrolled through posts. "Sinclair heiress collapses at altar, calls off billion-dollar wedding. Society wedding of the year ends in dramatic fainting spell. Oh God, there's video." "Don't torture yourself," Olivia advised, taking the phone away. "It'll be yesterday's news soon enough." Victoria flopped back on Olivia's bed. "My mother will never forgive me. The Sinclairs don't create scandals. We bury them." "You were honest. That's more important than keeping up appearances." Victoria turned to look at her friend. "When did you get so wise?" "Medical school," Olivia replied with a smile. "Nothing puts life in perspective like watching people face their mortality every day." Victoria's phone buzzed incessantly with messages and notifications until she finally turned it off completely. "I can't deal with this tonight. Not my mother's recriminations or the press or anything." "You don't have to," Olivia assured her. "Tonight is about recovery. Food, rest, maybe some terrible reality TV that doesn't involve weddings." They ordered Chinese takeout and opened a bottle of wine, settling on Olivia's comfortable couch to watch mindless television. As the evening wore on and the wine bottle emptied, Victoria felt the tension of the day slowly releasing its grip. "I should be on my honeymoon flight to Bora Bora right now," she mused, refilling their glasses with the last of the wine. "Instead, you're eating lo mein in sweatpants." "Definite upgrade," Olivia teased. Victoria laughed, then grew serious. "Thank you, Liv. Not just for today, but for always being there, even when I was too caught up in what everyone else wanted to see what I needed." "That's what best friends are for," Olivia said simply. "No, it's more than that. You've always seen the real me, not the society version." Victoria leaned her head against Olivia's shoulder. "I want to be more like you, brave enough to live authentically." "You are brave," Olivia insisted. "What you did today took incredible courage." Victoria yawned, the emotional exhaustion of the day finally catching up with her. "I have no idea what happens next. My whole life was planned around becoming Mrs. Alexander Rhodes." "That's the exciting part," Olivia said softly. "You get to decide. No expectations, no family pressure. Just what Victoria wants." As Victoria drifted off to sleep on the couch, her last coherent thought was that for the first time in years, the future seemed full of possibilities, rather than obligations. Neither woman could have guessed that across town, Alexander Rhodes sat alone in his penthouse, a tumbler of scotch in hand, replaying the day's events in his mind. Strangely, his thoughts kept returning not to his almost bride, but to her fiercely protective best friend, the woman who had taken charge when Victoria collapsed, who had looked at him with challenge in her dark eyes rather than the deference he usually received. Dr. Olivia Martinez was unlike anyone in his carefully curated world. And something about that realization made him drain his glass and reach for his phone, searching for information about the emergency room doctor, who had inadvertently changed the course of his carefully planned life. 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, Olivia Martinez rushed through the hospital corridors, her scrubs splattered with blood from the emergency surgery she'd just completed. 16 hours into what should have been a 12-hour shift, she was running on caffeine and determination. "Dr. Martinez," the charge nurse called out. "There's someone waiting for you in the staff lounge. Says it's important." Olivia sighed, assuming it was Victoria. Her friend had been staying at her apartment while apartment hunting, trying to establish independence from her disapproving family. "Tell them I'll be there in 5 minutes," she replied, heading to the locker room to change out of her bloody scrubs. When she pushed open the door to the staff lounge, exhaustion fogging her brain, she stopped short. It wasn't Victoria waiting for her. It was Alexander Rhodes. He stood by the window, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, checking his watch with the impatience of a man unused to waiting for anyone. "Mr. Rhodes?" Olivia said, confusion evident in her voice. "What are you doing here?" Alexander turned, his gray eyes assessing her with the same intensity she remembered from the wedding. "Dr. Martinez, thank you for seeing me." "I wasn't aware I had a choice," she replied, suddenly conscious of her wrinkled scrubs and the messy bun she'd hastily created. "Is this about Victoria? Is she okay?" "Victoria is fine, as far as I know," he said. "This is about a different matter entirely." Olivia crossed her arms defensively. "I've been on shift for 16 hours. Whatever this is, could we possibly discuss it another time?" Alexander seemed momentarily taken aback by her directness. "Of course. I apologize for the intrusion. Perhaps we could meet for dinner tomorrow evening? I have a proposition I'd like to discuss with you." "A proposition?" Olivia repeated skeptically. "A professional one," he clarified. "Regarding my foundation's healthcare initiatives." Olivia hesitated. The Rhodes Foundation was known for its substantial donations to medical research and healthcare access programs. As an ER doctor working in a chronically underfunded public hospital, she couldn't dismiss the potential benefits of such a connection. "Fine," she relented. "But not dinner. Coffee. 4 o'clock at Broadleaf Cafe on Cambridge Street." A slight smile touched Alexander's lips. "Not dinner? Most people would jump at the chance to dine at any restaurant of their choosing on my account." "I'm not most people, Mr. Rhodes, and I prefer to keep things professional." 4 o'clock it is," he agreed, taking out a business card and writing something on the back. "My personal number, in case you need to reschedule." As he left, Olivia sank into the nearest chair, wondering what Alexander Rhodes could possibly want from her. She didn't mention the encounter to Victoria that night. Her friend was finally showing signs of emerging from the post-wedding fallout, having spent the day viewing apartments and ignoring her mother's increasingly desperate calls to fix things with Alexander. "I think I found the perfect place," Victoria announced when Olivia arrived home. "A little loft in the south end. It needs work, but it has incredible light for painting." "You paint?" Olivia asked, surprised. Victoria nodded. "I used to, in college. Before Mother convinced me it was a hobby, not a profession. I'd love to see your work sometime. That's the thing. I haven't painted in years, but I want to start again. Find out if I still can." Olivia smiled, happy to see her friend rediscovering herself. "I'm sure you'll be amazing." The next day at precisely 4 o'clock, Olivia walked into Broadleaf Cafe to find Alexander already seated at a corner table, laptop open, apparently working while he waited. "Mr. Rhodes," she greeted him, sliding into the chair opposite. "Dr. Martinez," he returned, closing his laptop. "Thank you for coming." "Let's get straight to the point," Olivia said. "What does the Rhodes Foundation want with me?" Alexander studied her for a moment. "Direct and efficient. I appreciate that." He took a sip of his coffee. "I've been researching your work. Your paper on emergency protocols in resource-limited settings was particularly impressive." Olivia blinked in surprise. That paper had been published in a specialty journal with limited circulation. "You read my research?" "I make it a point to be thoroughly informed," he replied. "The Rhodes Foundation is launching a new initiative focused on improving emergency medical care in underserved communities. We're assembling an advisory board of physicians with relevant expertise. I'd like you to join it." This was the last thing Olivia had expected. Why me? There are more experienced physicians, ones with more publications, more connections, most of whom have never worked a 30-hour shift in an underfunded hospital or treated patients who can't pay, Alexander said bluntly. "We need advisors who understand the realities, not just the theories." It was a compelling argument, and the cause aligned perfectly with Olivia's passion for healthcare equity. Still, she hesitated. "This has nothing to do with Victoria, does it? Because if you're trying to use me to get to her—" "This has nothing to do with Victoria," Alexander interrupted firmly. Our relationship ended 3 weeks ago at the altar. Cleanly and definitively, as I prefer all endings. And the timing is just coincidence? Alexander's expression remained impassive. The timing is because I need an answer within the week. The first advisory board meeting is scheduled for the 15th. Olivia tapped her fingers on the table, thinking. I'd need to see the details, time commitment, expectations, whether this conflicts with my hospital duties. Of course. Alexander opened his laptop again, typing quickly before turning it toward her. The full proposal, including compensation for your time and expertise. Olivia scanned the document, her eyebrows rising at the generous compensation figures. This is substantial. We value expertise appropriately, Alexander said simply. We'll also accommodate your schedule at the hospital. We understand that's your priority. The offer was too good to refuse, professionally speaking. Still, something felt off about the situation. I need time to think about it, she said finally. Of course. Though I should mention the board is nearly complete. This is the final position. Olivia recognized the subtle pressure tactic for what it was. I'll let you know by Friday. Friday it is. Alexander closed his laptop and stood. Thank you for your consideration, Dr. Martinez. As he turned to leave, Olivia called after him. Mr. Rhodes, why did you really seek me out? There are hundreds of qualified emergency physicians you could have approached. Alexander paused, seeming to consider his answer carefully. You impressed me at the wedding. When everything fell apart, you remained calm, focused on what mattered. That's exactly the kind of thinking this initiative needs. With that, he was gone, leaving Olivia to wonder if she'd just been offered an incredible opportunity or stepped into a complicated situation she'd regret. When she returned home that evening, Victoria was in the middle of packing boxes. I signed the lease, she announced excitedly. I move in next week. That's fantastic, Olivia said, genuinely happy for her friend. Your first place on your own. I know! It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Victoria sealed a box with packing tape. So, how was your day? Save any lives? Olivia hesitated, then decided honesty was best. I had coffee with Alexander Rhodes. Victoria froze, tape dispenser in hand. You what? He came to the hospital yesterday, wanted to discuss something with me. Olivia explained the foundation's proposal, watching Victoria's expression carefully. And you believe him? That it has nothing to do with me? Victoria asked skeptically. I think so. The proposal is legitimate. The foundation does great work in healthcare. Victoria sat heavily on the couch. It's just strange. Of all the doctors in Boston, he approaches my best friend? That's what I asked him, Olivia admitted. He said it was because of how I handled things at the wedding. Victoria's expression softened. Well, you were impressive. When I collapsed, everyone else panicked. You took charge. She paused, then added, Are you going to accept the position? I'm not sure yet. It's an amazing opportunity, but you're worried about how I'll feel, Victoria finished for her. Don't be. Alexander and I weren't right for each other, but that doesn't mean he isn't right for this work. Or that you shouldn't work with him. Olivia felt a wave of relief. You're sure? Absolutely, Victoria assured her. Besides, I'm focused on my fresh start, new apartment, art classes starting next week. I'm finally figuring out who Victoria is, without the Sinclair expectations. The next day, Olivia called the number on Alexander's card and accepted the position. Within a week, she found herself attending the first advisory board meeting at the Rhodes Foundation's sleek downtown headquarters. The board consisted of 6 physicians from various specialties, 2 public health experts, and Alexander himself. The discussion was substantive and engaging, focusing on innovative approaches to emergency care delivery in communities without adequate hospital access. Olivia found herself impressed by Alexander's grasp of the issues. He wasn't just a wealthy man throwing money at a problem. He genuinely understood the complexities involved. As the meeting concluded, Alexander approached her. Your input was valuable today, Dr. Martinez. Particularly your suggestions about mobile trauma units. Thank you, she replied, surprised by the specific acknowledgement. The Foundation's commitment is impressive. Perhaps you'd join me for dinner? To discuss your ideas further, he suggested. There is a restaurant nearby with excellent Chilean sea base. Olivia hesitated. I should get back to check on Victoria. She's still settling into her new place. Of course, Alexander said, his expression unreadable. Another time, perhaps. Over the next month, Olivia divided her time between hospital shifts, advisory board meetings, and helping Victoria adjust to independent living. Her friend was flourishing, taking art classes 3 times a week and transforming her loft into a bright, creative space unlike anything her mother would have approved. You should see Eleanor's face when she visits. Victoria laughed during one of their weekly wine nights. She looks like she's afraid to touch anything in case the bohemian lifestyle is contagious. At least she's visiting, Olivia pointed out. That's progress. Only to remind me that it's not too late to reconcile with Alexander. Victoria rolled her eyes. Speaking of which, how are the board meetings going? Surprisingly well, Olivia admitted. We're finalizing the first pilot program for rural Massachusetts. What Olivia didn't mention was how her perception of Alexander had been gradually shifting. In their professional interactions, she'd glimpsed a different side of him, thoughtful, incisive, genuinely committed to making a difference. He listened to her ideas with respect, implemented her suggestions, and never once brought up Victoria or their personal connection. After one particularly productive meeting in late June, Alexander caught up with her as she was leaving the building. Dr. Martinez, he called. A moment? Olivia turned, noticing he looked less composed than usual. His tie slightly loosened, a hint of genuine excitement in his expression. The committee approved the full funding package, he said. Your mobile trauma unit concept will be the centerpiece of the initiative. That's fantastic news, Olivia exclaimed, genuinely thrilled. We should celebrate, Alexander suggested. Dinner? I promised to keep the conversation strictly professional. Perhaps it was the triumph of seeing her idea become reality, or simply the fact that a month of working together had eased her initial wariness. Whatever the reason, Olivia found herself agreeing. The restaurant Alexander chose was upscale but understated, with a quiet corner table that allowed for conversation without shouting. To Olivia's surprise, dinner with Alexander Rhodes was actually enjoyable. He was knowledgeable about healthcare systems globally, asked thoughtful questions about her experiences, and seemed genuinely interested in her answers. You're different than I expected, Olivia admitted after their entrees arrived. How so? Alexander asked, seeming genuinely curious. Victoria always described you as brilliant but somewhat detached, all business, no emotion. Alexander considered this. That's a fair assessment of how I've approached most of my life. It's proven effective in business. But not in personal relationships, Olivia pointed out. Evidently not, he acknowledged with a wry smile, though I suspect Victoria and I would have made each other equally unhappy. We wanted different things. What do you want? Olivia asked, surprised by her own boldness. Alexander seemed equally surprised by the question. No one's asked me that in a long time, he admitted. Everyone assumes I have everything I could want. That doesn't answer the question. He was quiet for a moment, swirling the wine in his glass. I want to create something meaningful. Not just accumulate wealth or power, but actually improve people's lives. He looked up at her. What about you, Dr. Martinez? What do you want? To make a difference, she replied without hesitation. To know that because I existed, someone who might have suffered didn't. Someone who might have died lived. Alexander studied her face. That's why you're perfect for this initiative. You genuinely care about the outcome, not just the accolades or the compensation. Their conversation continued long after the plates were cleared, ranging from healthcare policy to favorite books to childhood memories. Olivia found herself laughing at Alexander's dry observations about Silicon Valley absurdities, while he seemed genuinely entertained by her emergency room horror stories. When he finally walked her to her car, the evening had taken on a quality Olivia hadn't anticipated, something dangerously close to a connection. Thank you for dinner, she said, suddenly awkward, and for taking my ideas seriously. They were good ideas, Alexander said simply. Thank you for sharing them. There was a moment, brief but undeniable, when something shifted in the air between them. Alexander took a small step closer, then seemed to think better of it. "Good night, Dr. Martinez," he said formally. "Olivia," she corrected him. "After all this time, you can call me Olivia." "Olivia," he repeated, the name sounding different in his voice. "Good night." As she drove home, Olivia tried to make sense of the evening and the unexpected warmth she'd felt in Alexander's company. It was professional admiration, she told herself. Appreciation for a colleague's intellect and commitment, nothing more. Victoria was waiting up when she arrived home, curled on the couch with sketchbook in hand. "How was your big meeting?" she asked, not looking up from her drawing. "Good," Olivia said, trying to sound casual. "They approved the full funding." "That's amazing, Liv." Victoria set aside her sketchbook. "We should celebrate." "Open that bottle of champagne I'd been saving." As Victoria bustled to the kitchen, Olivia felt a stab of guilt. "Actually, I already had a celebration dinner. With Alexander." Victoria paused, champagne bottle in hand. "Oh? It was a professional thing," Olivia hurried to explain. "The whole team was supposed to be there, but everyone else had conflicts, so it ended up just being the two of us." It wasn't entirely true, but it felt safer than admitting she'd enjoyed an intimate dinner with her best friend's ex-fiancé. "You don't need to explain," Victoria said, though something in her expression suggested otherwise. "Alexander is your colleague now. It's natural you'd have dinner occasionally." "Right," Olivia agreed quickly. "Colleague." "Exactly." But as she lay in bed that night, Olivia couldn't shake the memory of Alexander's voice saying her name, or the strange disappointment she'd felt when he'd stepped back instead of closer. Over the next few weeks, Olivia found herself spending more time at the Rhodes Foundation as the initiative moved from planning to implementation. Alexander was often present at these meetings, his input sharp and relevant, his respect for her expertise evident to everyone. They fell into a pattern of working late, ordering dinner to the conference room, discussing approaches long after the rest of the team had gone home. It was during these evening sessions that Olivia began to see the man behind the billionaire facade, driven but not cold, reserved but not unfeeling. "Why emergency medicine?" he asked one night as they reviewed protocols for the mobile units. "It's one of the most demanding specialties." Olivia looked up from her laptop. "My younger brother died when I was 16, she said quietly. "Car accident. The rural hospital nearest to us didn't have the trauma capabilities to save him. By the time they transferred him to a facility that did, it was too late." Alexander set down his pen, giving her his full attention. "I'm sorry." "It was a long time ago," Olivia said. "But it shaped everything that came after. I decided if I couldn't save him, I'd save others like him. Make sure geography didn't determine who lived and who died. That's why the mobile trauma unit concept means so much to you," Alexander realized. "It's personal." Olivia nodded. "What about you? Why healthcare as a philanthropic focus?" A shadow crossed Alexander's face. "My mother died of cancer when I was 12. Excellent care. The best specialists, but the outcome was the same." He tapped his pen against the table. "I learned early that money can't solve everything, but it can remove barriers. Not everyone has the resources my family had. I want to change that equation." It was the most personal thing he'd ever shared with her, and Olivia felt the significance of his trust. "We're both trying to fix the past," she observed softly. Alexander met her gaze. "Perhaps. Or build a better future from its lessons." The moment stretched between them, charged with something neither was ready to name. Then Alexander's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. "It's late," he said, checking the message. "You should get home." "Right," Olivia agreed, gathering her papers. "Victoria's probably wondering where I am." The mention of Victoria's name seemed to restore the professional boundaries between them. Alexander straightened his tie, his expression becoming neutral once more. "The first mobile unit launches next week," he reminded her. "You should be proud of what you've accomplished." "What we've accomplished?" Olivia corrected him. "This is a team effort." A small smile touched his lips. "Indeed." When Olivia arrived home that night, she found Victoria asleep on the couch, an empty wine glass on the coffee table beside her. A painting stood on an easel nearby, a striking landscape of stormy seas against rocky shores, beautiful but turbulent. Olivia covered her friend with a blanket, studying the painting with admiration. Victoria's talent was undeniable. Her emotions poured onto the canvas in vivid color. The next morning over breakfast, Victoria seemed subdued. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked, pouring coffee for them both. "Just tired," Victoria replied, "and thinking about next steps. The apartment is great, but I can't live off my trust fund forever. I need purpose." "Your painting is incredible," Olivia told her. "Maybe that's your purpose." Victoria smiled wanly. "Maybe. Though Mother would have an aneurysm if I became a starving artist, after rejecting a billionaire. Since when do you care what your mother thinks?" "True," Victoria acknowledged. "Speaking of billionaires, how's the project with Alexander going?" "Good," Olivia said carefully. "The first mobile unit launches next week. There's a foundation event to celebrate." "Will you be attending?" Victoria asked, her tone casual but her eyes watchful. "I should. It's partly my project." Olivia hesitated. "Would that be weird for you?" Victoria waved dismissively. "Of course not. Alexander and I are ancient history. I'm happy you're doing meaningful work together." Still, something in her friend's manner left Olivia feeling unsettled. She reminded herself firmly that her relationship with Alexander was strictly professional, regardless of any momentary connections they might have shared. The night of the foundation gala arrived, a far more formal affair than Olivia had anticipated. The ballroom of the Four Seasons Hotel was transformed with elegant decorations, a string quartet playing softly in the corner, Boston's elite mingling over champagne and hors d'oeuvre. Olivia felt out of place in her simple black cocktail dress, the only formal outfit she owned. Most of the women wore designer gowns with statement jewelry, while the men were impeccable in tuxedos. "Dr. Martinez," Alexander's voice came from behind her. "I'm glad you could make it." She turned to find him in a perfectly tailored tuxedo that made him look even more handsome than usual. For a moment, she understood exactly why Victoria had initially been drawn to him. "Quite a turnout," she commented, gesturing to the crowded room. "Philanthropy makes for excellent networking opportunities," Alexander said dryly. "Half these people couldn't care less about rural health care, but they're happy to be associated with the cause." His cynicism surprised her. "Including you?" Alexander's expression softened. "No, this particular cause matters to me, as does its success." Before Olivia could respond, they were interrupted by an elegant older woman approaching with determination. "Alexander, darling," the woman said, air-kissing his cheek. "Wonderful event. Your father would be proud." "Thank you, Margaret," Alexander replied politely. "Allow me to introduce Dr. Olivia Martinez, the medical mind behind our mobile trauma unit initiative." Margaret's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose slightly as she assessed Olivia. "How fascinating. And how did you two meet?" There was a moment of awkward silence as they both realized the complicated answer to that simple question. "Through the foundation," Alexander said smoothly. "Dr. Martinez's research on emergency medicine in resource-limited settings caught our attention." "How fortunate," Margaret murmured, her gaze speculative. "And will Victoria be joining us this evening?" Alexander's expression remained neutral. "I wouldn't expect so." "Such a shame about the wedding," Margaret continued, apparently oblivious to the tension. "Though between us, Eleanor Sinclair always did have outsized ambitions for that girl." Olivia felt a surge of protectiveness toward her friend. "Victoria is doing exceptionally well, actually. She's pursuing her art and building an independent life that makes her happy." Margaret looked surprised, as if she'd forgotten Olivia was there. "Yes, well, happiness is all very well, but connections matter in this world." She patted Alexander's arm. "Don't be a stranger, darling. Charles and I are having a little gathering next weekend at the Cape House. You should join us." After she departed, Olivia couldn't help but laugh. "Is everyone in your social circle like that?" "Unfortunately, yes," Alexander admitted. "Which is why I avoid most social obligations." "Yet you organized this gala. A necessary evil to secure ongoing funding," he explained. "Would you like to see something more interesting than wealthy people congratulating themselves?" Curious, Olivia followed him through a side door and down a corridor to a small conference room. Inside, a detailed model of the mobile trauma unit was displayed, along with video screens showing simulations of its deployment. "This is what matters," Alexander said, his passion evident as he explained the features they'd incorporated based on Olivia's recommendations. As he spoke, Olivia found herself watching his face rather than the model. The animation in his usually composed features, the genuine enthusiasm in his voice. This was the real Alexander Rhodes, she realized. Not the polished billionaire in the ballroom, but this man who cared deeply about making a difference. "You're staring, Dr. Martinez," he said, pausing mid-explanation. "Olivia," she reminded him softly. "Olivia," he amended, taking a step closer. The air between them seemed to charge with electricity. Olivia knew she should step back, maintain professional distance, remember that this man had nearly married her best friend. Instead, she found herself rooted to the spot as Alexander slowly raised his hand to brush a strand of hair from her face. "We shouldn't," she whispered, even as she leaned almost imperceptibly into his touch. "No," he agreed, his voice equally quiet. "We shouldn't." But neither moved away. For a suspended moment, they stood at the precipice of something dangerous and inevitable. Then, the conference room door swung open, and reality came crashing back. "There you are, Alexander." A Foundation board member entered, oblivious to what he'd interrupted. "They're ready for your speech." Alexander stepped back, his professional mask sliding seamlessly back into place. "Of course. I'll be right there." He turned to Olivia. "Will you join us in the ballroom, Dr. Martinez?" The formality in his tone made clear that whatever had almost happened was now firmly closed. Olivia nodded, following them back to the gala with her heart pounding and her thoughts in turmoil. As Alexander delivered an eloquent speech about healthcare equity and the Foundation's commitment to innovative solutions, Olivia stood at the back of the ballroom, trying to make sense of her feelings. She admired Alexander professionally, she enjoyed his company. But the pull she felt toward him was something else entirely. Something inappropriate and complicated given their history. When the speech concluded to enthusiastic applause, Olivia slipped out without saying goodbye. She needed distance, perspective, and most of all, she needed to be honest with Victoria. The morning after the gala, Olivia sat at her kitchen table, coffee growing cold, as she rehearsed what to say to Victoria. How could she explain feelings she barely understood herself? Feelings for a man who, just months ago, had been standing at the altar waiting to marry her best friend. The sound of keys in the door interrupted her thoughts. Victoria breezed in, flushed with excitement, carrying a large, flat package wrapped in brown paper. "You'll never believe what happened," she exclaimed, propping the package against the wall. "The gallery owner from my art class stopped by my studio yesterday. He wants to include 3 of my pieces in his upcoming showcase." "That's incredible," Olivia said, genuinely thrilled for her friend. "When is it?" "Next month." Victoria unwrapped the package, revealing a striking canvas of stormy seas giving way to clear skies. "This is the centerpiece. He says it shows remarkable emotional progression." Olivia studied the painting, recognizing the metaphor for Victoria's own journey. "It's beautiful, Vic. You're really talented." "I feel alive again," Victoria said, her eyes bright. "Like I've finally found my voice." She paused, noticing Olivia's untouched coffee. "Everything okay? You look serious." The moment to confess had arrived, but faced with Victoria's happiness, Olivia faltered. "Just tired. The gala ran late." "How was it? Did Alexander give a good speech?" "Very polished," Olivia said carefully. The whole event was impressive. I'm sure, Victoria said, making herself tea. Alexander excels at impressive. It's authentic he struggles with. The comment stung, partly because it contradicted Olivia's own experience. The Alexander she'd come to know was thoughtful and genuine, at least with her. People can surprise you, she said quietly. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Alexander Rhodes? The man calculates his every move like a chess master. Nothing spontaneous, nothing messy. She smiled wryly. Probably why we crashed and burned so spectacularly. I'm all spontaneity and mess. Maybe you just brought out different sides of each other, Olivia suggested. Maybe, Victoria conceded. Or maybe he never let me see the real him. Either way, ancient history. She yawned. I was up all night finishing this piece. I'm going to nap before my afternoon class. As Victoria disappeared into her bedroom, Olivia stared at the painting, dark turbulence transforming into tranquil clarity. Victoria was healing, finding her path. How could Olivia risk that by admitting her complicated feelings for Alexander? She couldn't. At least not yet. The mobile trauma unit launched the following week with considerable media attention. Olivia stood beside Alexander at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, maintaining professional distance despite the undercurrent of tension between them. They hadn't spoken about what almost happened at the gala, both retreating behind work-related discussions. The first unit will serve 5 rural counties, Alexander explained to the assembled reporters, bringing critical care capabilities directly to underserved communities. Dr. Martinez, a journalist, called out, as the medical advisor for this initiative, what impact do you anticipate on patient outcomes? Olivia stepped forward, grateful to focus on what truly mattered. In trauma cases, we talk about the golden hour, the critical time when intervention makes the difference between life and death. For rural communities, that hour often expires during transport to distant facilities. These mobile units change that equation significantly. The press conference continued, with Olivia and Alexander fielding questions about implementation, technology, and future expansion plans. They worked seamlessly as a team, their shared passion for the project evident to everyone watching. Afterward, as the crowd dispersed, Alexander approached her. Impressive handling of the technical questions. You made complex medical concepts accessible without oversimplifying. Thanks, Olivia said, strangely flustered by the compliment. Your funding breakdown was equally impressive. You have a gift for making enormous figures sound reasonable and necessary. Alexander almost smiled. A useful skill when convincing wealthy people to part with their money. He hesitated. I was wondering if you might join me for dinner tonight. To celebrate the launch properly. Warning bells sounded in Olivia's mind. I don't think that's a good idea. Strictly professional, Alexander clarified. The entire advisory board will be there. Oh, Olivia said, feeling oddly disappointed. In that case, yes, thank you. But when she arrived at the upscale restaurant that evening, Olivia discovered the entire advisory board consisted only of herself and Alexander. The others sent their regrets, he explained as they were seated at an intimate corner table. Last-minute conflicts. Olivia narrowed her eyes. All of them? Simultaneously? Alexander had the grace to look slightly abashed. Perhaps I wasn't entirely forthcoming about the nature of the dinner when I extended the invitations. You manipulated the situation, Olivia accused. I created an opportunity, he countered, for us to talk, without pretense. About what, exactly? Alexander's usual composure faltered. About what's happening between us. Olivia's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. We're colleagues working on an important healthcare initiative. That's what's happening. Is that all? Alexander asked quietly. The question hung between them, demanding honesty Olivia wasn't ready to give. It's all it can be, she finally said. You were engaged to my best friend 3 months ago. A relationship that both Victoria and I have acknowledged was a mistake, Alexander pointed out, based on external expectations rather than genuine connection. Even so, Olivia insisted, there are boundaries, complications. Alexander studied her face. You feel it too, then. It wasn't a question, and Olivia couldn't bring herself to deny it. What I feel doesn't matter. Victoria is finally rebuilding her life after the wedding disaster. How would it look if I started seeing her ex-fiancé? Is that what matters most? How it looks? What matters is loyalty, Olivia said firmly. Victoria has been my friend since college. She took me in when my brother died, and I had nowhere to go. I won't betray her trust. Alexander was quiet for a moment. I respect your loyalty. It's one of the qualities I admire most about you. He picked up his menu. Shall we order? Since we're here, we might as well enjoy an excellent meal as colleagues. The shift back to professional territory should have been a relief. Instead, Olivia felt a strange sense of loss as they moved to safer topics. The Foundation's next initiatives, hospital protocols, healthcare policy. Yet, throughout dinner, she found herself noticing things she shouldn't. The intensity in Alexander's gray eyes when he was making a point, the rare but transformative nature of his genuine smile, the intelligence and compassion beneath his reserved exterior. When he walked her to her car afterward, the night air cool against her skin, Olivia knew she was in dangerous territory. Thank you for dinner, she said formally, fishing for her keys to avoid meeting his gaze. Olivia, Alexander said softly. When she looked up, he was closer than she expected. I won't push where I'm not wanted. But I need to know, if circumstances were different, if Victoria weren't a factor, would there be a chance for us? The honest answer terrified her. That's an impossible hypothetical. Victoria is a factor. She always will be. Alexander nodded, accepting her non-answer. Good night, then. As he turned to leave, Olivia was seized by an impulse she couldn't suppress. Alexander, wait. He paused, looking back at her with carefully controlled hope. I need time, she said simply. And I need to talk to Victoria before anything. I understand, he replied. I'll wait. The weight of those two simple words followed Olivia home, where she found Victoria curled on the couch, sketching feverishly. You're back late, Victoria commented without looking up. Emergency at the hospital? Foundation dinner, Olivia said, hanging up her coat. Celebrating the mobile unit launch. Victoria nodded absently, focused on her drawing. How's Alexander? The direct question caught Olivia off guard. Fine. Why do you ask? Just curious. Victoria shrugged. You two have been working closely together for months now. There was something in her tone that made Olivia pause. Vic, is everything okay between us? Victoria finally looked up, her expression unreadable. Why wouldn't it be? You seem, I don't know, distant lately. Victoria set aside her sketchbook with a sigh. I've been wrapped up in my art, that's all. Getting ready for the showcase is consuming all my energy. She smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. We're fine, Liv. Promise. Despite the reassurance, Olivia felt a subtle shift in their friendship, a new guardedness that hadn't existed before. She went to bed that night with the uncomfortable feeling that she was already betraying Victoria, even without having crossed any definitive lines with Alexander. The next week brought a new complication. Victoria's mother, Eleanor Sinclair, appeared unannounced at Olivia's hospital during her shift. Mrs. Sinclair, Olivia greeted her cautiously in the staff lounge. Is everything all right? Is Victoria okay? Victoria is throwing away her potential on finger painting, Eleanor said dismissively. But that's not why I'm here. Eleanor Sinclair was the epitome of Boston Brahmin elegance. Perfectly coiffed silver blonde hair, tasteful designer suit, pearls that had likely been in the family for generations. Her presence in the somewhat shabby hospital lounge felt incongruous, like a diamond displayed in a paper cup. I understand you've been working with Alexander Rhodes, Eleanor continued, her tone deliberately casual. Olivia tensed. On a healthcare initiative, yes. Through his foundation. And attending galas, intimate dinners. Eleanor added, her eyes sharp. Don't look surprised, dear. Boston's social circles are very small at the top. Those were professional engagements, Olivia said, trying to keep her voice even. Perhaps, Eleanor conceded, though her expression suggested otherwise. Regardless, I wanted to speak with you directly, woman to woman. About? Alexander Rhodes represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the right woman, Eleanor said bluntly. My daughter foolishly discarded that opportunity. I would hate to see you make a similar mistake. Olivia stared at her, confused. I'm not sure I follow. Let me be clearer. Alexander needs a certain type of partner. Someone who understands his world, his obligations, his position in society. Someone like Victoria, who was raised to navigate those waters. Eleanor's gaze turned piercing. Not someone like you. The implication stung more than Olivia wanted to admit. Mrs. Sinclair, my relationship with Alexander is strictly professional. For now, perhaps, Eleanor acknowledged. But I've seen how these things develop. A bright young woman catches a wealthy man's attention. He's intrigued by her difference, her authenticity. But eventually, reality sets in. The novelty wears off. He returns to his world, and she's left behind, no longer fitting in either sphere. That's quite a narrative you've constructed, Olivia said coldly. But it has nothing to do with me, Eleanor smiled thinly. Victoria considers you her closest friend. How do you think she'd feel knowing you've caught her ex-fiancé's eye, barely 3 months after their wedding was called off? The direct hit landed with precision. I would never hurt Victoria, Olivia said quietly. Then we understand each other. Eleanor stood, smoothing her immaculate suit. Victoria may have made her choice, but the Rhodes connection is still valuable to our family. Other arrangements could be made, given time. Other arrangements? Victoria has a younger cousin who would be perfect for Alexander. The right background, the right education, the right temperament. Eleanor's meaning was clear. She hadn't given up on merging the Sinclair and Rhodes families. After Eleanor left, Olivia sat alone in the lounge, her thoughts churning. Was there truth in the older woman's warning? Was she fooling herself about Alexander's interest? And more importantly, could she betray Victoria's trust for a relationship that might be doomed from the start? The questions followed her through her shift, distracting her until a multi-car accident in the early evening demanded her complete focus. For the next 6 hours, Olivia worked tirelessly alongside her team, saving 3 critically injured patients who might otherwise have died. As she finally stepped out of the hospital at midnight, exhausted but satisfied, she found Alexander waiting beside his car in the parking lot. "What are you doing here?" she asked, too tired to hide her surprise. "I heard about the accident on the news," he said simply. "Thought you might need a ride home after a difficult shift." The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her deeply. "How long have you been waiting?" "A couple of hours. It doesn't matter." He opened the passenger door for her. "You look exhausted. Let me drive you home." Too drained to argue, Olivia slid into the luxurious seat. As Alexander drove through the quiet nighttime streets, she found herself telling him about the accident, the surgeries, the lives they'd managed to save. The first patient wouldn't have made it without the new trauma protocol we implemented last month, she explained. The one based on your foundation's research initiative. Alexander glanced at her. So in a way, you saved his life twice. Once by developing the protocol, once by implementing it. I never thought of it that way, Olivia admitted. You should. Your work matters, Olivia. Not just to individual patients, but to healthcare systems more broadly. There was genuine admiration in his voice. It's extraordinary. No one had ever spoken about her work with such understanding. In that moment, Olivia felt truly seen in a way she rarely experienced. Your mother came to see me today, she said suddenly. Alexander's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Victoria's mother? Eleanor Sinclair? She wanted to warn me away from you, Olivia explained, watching his reaction carefully. Said I wasn't the right type for someone in your position. Alexander's expression darkened. That's completely inappropriate. I apologize on her behalf. Is she wrong, though? Olivia asked quietly. We come from different worlds, Alexander. You were raised with wealth and privilege. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Chicago. Put myself through medical school with loans I'm still paying off. And that matters to you? No, Olivia admitted. But your world, the galas, the social obligations, the unspoken rules, that's not my world. Alexander was silent for a moment. When I was 12, after my mother died, I was sent to boarding school in Switzerland. My father thought it would provide stability. Instead, I felt completely alien. The American among Europeans, the grieving child among carefree adolescents, the serious student among those treating education as an inconvenience between ski trips. He turned onto Olivia's street, his profile thoughtful in the dim light. I learned to navigate that world, to mimic its patterns, to succeed by its metrics. But I've never felt I belonged there. Perhaps that's why I find your directness so refreshing. With you, there are no hidden agendas, no social games, just honesty. He parked in front of her building but made no move to exit the car. So to answer your question, yes, we come from different worlds. But I've never felt at home in mine. And when I'm with you, the differences don't seem to matter. The sincerity in his voice made Olivia's carefully constructed defenses waver. She wanted to believe him, wanted to explore the connection that had been building between them for months. I need to talk to Victoria, she said finally. Before anything happens between us, I owe her that. Alexander nodded. I understand. And I need you to be certain, Olivia continued. This isn't some novelty that will wear off, some temporary fascination with someone different. Because if we start this and you decide I don't fit into your world after all, it won't just be my heart that breaks, it will cost me my best friend too. I've never been more certain of anything, Alexander said quietly, but I'll wait until you're ready, however long that takes. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of possibility between them. Then, with a soft goodnight, Olivia stepped out of the car and into the cool night air, knowing that her next conversation with Victoria would change everything. But Victoria wasn't home when Olivia entered the apartment. A note on the counter explained she was staying at her studio overnight to finish pieces for the upcoming showcase. The reprieve gave Olivia time to gather her thoughts, to plan how to broach the impossible subject. By morning, she had decided on complete honesty. Victoria deserved nothing less. She texted her friend, "Need to talk about something important. Coffee at Broadleaf at 2?" Victoria's reply came quickly. "Can't today. Final prep for showcase. Tomorrow?" The delay was both frustrating and relieving. Olivia threw herself into her hospital shift, grateful for the distraction of medical challenges with clear protocols and solutions, unlike the messy emotional terrain she was navigating in her personal life. When she returned home that evening, she was surprised to find Victoria waiting, surrounded by canvases propped against the walls. "I thought you were at the studio," Olivia said, setting down her bag. "Needed a break," Victoria explained, "and a second opinion on which pieces to include." She gestured to the artwork. "What do you think?" Olivia examined the paintings. Powerful, emotional landscapes that seemed to chart Victoria's journey from darkness to light. "They're incredible, Vic. Really." Victoria beamed. "The showcase is going to change everything. The gallery owner thinks I could actually make a career of this." "I believe it," Olivia said sincerely. Victoria's happiness made what Olivia needed to say even more difficult. How could she risk dampening this newfound joy and purpose? "You mentioned needing to talk about something?" Victoria prompted, arranging her canvases in sequence. Olivia took a deep breath. "Yes, but it can wait. You're busy with the showcase preparations." "Just spit it out, Liv," Victoria said, not looking up from her work. "Is it about the apartment?" "Because I know I've been practically living at the studio lately, but after the showcase—" "It's about Alexander," Olivia interrupted, the words tumbling out before she could reconsider. Victoria's hand stilled. She turned slowly to face Olivia, her expression carefully blank. "What about Alexander?" Now that the moment had arrived, Olivia struggled to find the right words. "We've been working closely together on the Foundation initiative, and I've gotten to know him beyond just a professional capacity." "I see," Victoria said. her voice unnaturally even. "Nothing has happened," Olivia hurried to clarify. "I wouldn't do that without talking to you first. But I've developed feelings for him, and I think he feels the same way." Victoria was silent for so long that Olivia began to panic internally. Finally, she spoke, her tone measured. "How long?" "It's been gradual," Olivia explained. "At first it was just professional respect, then friendship, and recently, something more. But I've been fighting it, Vic. Because of you." Victoria walked to the window, her back to Olivia. "And now you're asking for my permission?" "I'm asking how you feel about it," Olivia said quietly. "Your friendship means everything to me. If this would hurt you, then it ends here, no question." Victoria turned, her expression a complex mix of emotions. "You've always been there for me, Liv. When my parents were pressuring me about Alexander, when I collapsed at the altar, when I was trying to find myself afterward. You've never let me down." She sighed deeply. "The truth is, Alexander and I were never right for each other. I didn't love him. Not really. I loved the idea of him. The perfect match on paper. But there was no spark, no true connection." "Still," Olivia said, "it hasn't been that long since I left him at the altar?" Victoria finished with a wry smile, hardly the foundation for lingering attachment on either side. "So you wouldn't mind if Alexander and I—" Victoria hesitated, something flickering across her face too quickly to identify. "I want you to be happy, Liv, both of you. If you found something real together, who am I to stand in the way?" Relief flooded through Olivia. "You mean that?" "I do," Victoria said, though her smile seemed slightly forced. "Just be careful, okay? Alexander lives in a different world. One that can be harder to navigate than you might expect." "Your mother already gave me that warning," Olivia admitted. Victoria rolled her eyes. "Of course she did. Probably threatened to replace me with cousin Beatrice as the next Sinclair sacrificed to the Rhodes altar." They both laughed, the tension in the room easing. Victoria returned to arranging her paintings, and Olivia helped, their friendship seemingly intact, despite the potential complication. But later that night, as Olivia texted Alexander that she'd spoken with Victoria and the path was clear, she couldn't shake the feeling that something in her friend's easy acceptance didn't quite ring true. The night of Victoria's showcase arrived, a significant milestone in her emerging artistic career. The gallery was filled with Boston's art enthusiasts, critics, and social elite, all circulating among the displayed works with glasses of champagne in hand. Olivia arrived early to support her friend, marveling at how professional Victoria's paintings looked in the gallery setting, spotlights highlighting their emotional intensity. "This is incredible, Vic," she said, hugging her friend tightly. "I'm so proud of you." Victoria, elegant in a deep blue dress that complemented her blonde hair, looked more confident than Olivia had ever seen her. "I can hardly believe it myself. 3 months ago, I was about to marry a man I didn't love. Now I'm having my first showcase." "Life takes unexpected turns," Olivia agreed, thinking of her own surprising journey. Victoria squeezed her hand. "Speaking of which, is Alexander coming tonight?" The question caught Olivia off guard. I didn't invite him. I thought it might be awkward." "Don't be silly," Victoria said with a dismissive wave. "It's fine. In fact, I mentioned the showcase to him myself when we ran into each other at that charity luncheon last week." "You saw Alexander?" "You didn't mention that." Victoria shrugged. "It wasn't important. Just small talk. He said he might stop by tonight if his schedule allowed." Before Olivia could process this information, the gallery began filling with guests, and Victoria was swept away by the gallery owner to meet potential buyers. Olivia circulated through the growing crowd, listening with pride to the positive comments about Victoria's work. The showcase was clearly a success, with several red sold dots already appearing beside paintings. She was examining a particularly striking seascape when she felt a presence beside her. Without turning, she knew it was Alexander. "She's remarkably talented," he said, studying the painting. "There's real emotion in her work." Olivia turned to face him, her heart quickening at the sight of him in a perfectly tailored suit. "I didn't know if you'd come." "Victoria invited me," he said simply, "and I wanted to see you." The honesty in his voice made Olivia smile. "I told her about us. About the possibility of us." "And?" "She gave her blessing," Olivia said. "Said she wants us both to be happy." Alexander's expression softened. "That's generous of her." "She's a good person," Olivia said. "The best friend I could ask for." Across the room, Victoria was speaking animatedly with a group of admirers, her face flushed with success. When she caught sight of Alexander and Olivia standing together, she raised her champagne glass in a small toast, her smile bright but something unreadable in her eyes. "Shall we congratulate the artist?" Alexander suggested, offering Olivia his arm. As they moved through the crowd toward Victoria, Olivia felt the weight of possibility settling around them, the beginning of something new, unexpected, and full of promise. Whatever complications lay ahead, in this moment, surrounded by art that chronicled one woman's journey from darkness to light, the future seemed full of hope. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us. Victoria Sinclair thought she had everything planned. The perfect wedding, the perfect groom, the perfect life ahead. But when she collapsed at the altar, her best friend Olivia stepped in to help. No one expected what happened next. A moment of compassion transformed into something forbidden. Now the billionaire and the maid of honor share a secret that will change all their lives forever. Fate, betrayal, and unexpected love. What happens when destiny rewrites your happily ever after? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The late afternoon sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Mary's Cathedral, casting rainbow prisms across Victoria Sinclair's ivory wedding gown. At 28, she was the picture of bridal perfection, her blonde hair elegantly swept up, diamond earrings catching the light, and a custom Vera Wang gown that had cost more than some people's cars. 5 minutes, Miss Sinclair, the wedding coordinator whispered, clipboard clutched to her chest. The guests are seated, and Mr. Rhodes is at the altar. Victoria nodded, her stomach tightening with a strange mix of anxiety and dread that she tried desperately to ignore. This was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, the culmination of a 2-year relationship with Alexander Rhodes, 34-year-old tech billionaire and one of Boston's most eligible bachelors. "You look stunning," said Olivia Martinez, stepping into the bride's room in her emerald green maid of honor gown. At 27, Olivia was Victoria's opposite in almost every way. Dark-haired where Victoria was blonde, practical where Victoria was dramatic, and working as an emergency room doctor, while Victoria managed her family's charitable foundation. "I can't believe this is happening," Victoria whispered, her fingers trembling as she adjusted her veil. "It doesn't feel real." Olivia squeezed her friend's hand. "Cold feet are normal. You've been planning this day for a year." Victoria forced a smile, but something in her eyes made Olivia pause. "Vic, are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," Victoria insisted, though she'd been fighting waves of dizziness all morning. "Just nervous. And I skipped breakfast." Olivia frowned. "You need to eat something. Let me get you." "There's no time," Victoria interrupted. "They're about to start the processional. I'll be fine." The wedding coordinator reappeared, ushering the bridesmaids into position. Olivia gave Victoria one last concerned look before taking her place at the front of the line. As petrol bells cannon filled the cathedral, Victoria tried to focus on the doors ahead, on the moment she'd dreamed about since she was a little girl. Her father appeared beside her, offering his arm with pride shining in his eyes. "Ready to marry that young man of yours, princess?" Victoria nodded, unable to trust her voice. The double doors swung open, revealing 400 guests rising to their feet, turning to watch her entrance. At the end of the aisle stood Alexander Rhodes, impossibly handsome in his custom tuxedo, his chiseled face serious as always. The walk down the aisle felt endless. Each step brought Victoria closer to her future, the perfect society marriage, joining the Sinclair family's old Boston money with Alexander's new tech billions. It made sense on paper. Their parents approved. The society pages had dubbed them Boston's golden couple. When she finally reached the altar, her father kissed her cheek and placed her hand in Alexander's. His palm felt cool against hers, his expression polite but distant. Victoria searched his gray eyes for something, warmth, love, reassurance, but found only the same controlled gaze he wore in business meetings. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, his voice echoing through the cathedral. Victoria felt a sudden rush of heat, followed by a wave of dizziness stronger than before. The minister's words began to blur together, the cathedral spinning around her. She tried to steady herself, gripping Alexander's hand tighter. "Victoria," he whispered, noticing her distress. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. The last thing she saw was Alexander's startled expression before darkness claimed her, and she crumpled to the floor in a cascade of white tulle. Chaos erupted in the cathedral. Olivia pushed through the crowd, medical instincts taking over as she knelt beside her unconscious friend. "Give her space," she commanded, checking Victoria's pulse. "Victoria? Can you hear me?" Alexander stood.